Hello. So we're doing a little informal live on this Sunday afternoon. I realized I hadn't gotten a chance to go live last week at all, so thought I'd hop on and talk a little bit today about something that I see people do all the time that is a huge misunderstanding with how writing works. And it probably comes from back when we used to do papers in, high school, in college, whenever it was you were doing papers, and you would sit down in front of your computer and you'd have this completely blank page and you just stare at it. And you have all those feelings of, oh my God, what am I gonna write? What am I gonna say? Sometimes I don't even really like this topic. I don't like this class. I don't like whatever it is. You have all that kind of stuff welling up inside of you. And so you're sitting there staring at this blank page and you're going, well, if I can just get a title on there, if I can just get something written down, then I'll be able to start. And this is one of the worst things we can do, trying to come up with that perfect title right off the bat, because it takes our direction away from where we're supposed to be going and focuses it on this clever little nuance we're trying to do, this need to have this perfect cap on. It would be like if you're running to the store and you have on your pajamas and you're like, well, I look like crap, but I'm gonna put on the nicest hat I own. And you put that nice hat on and it just doesn't work out. Sometimes it ends up not even going with your outfit. Just gonna use this other example. Yesterday, my kids had their PJs on and they have this little set of play makeup that they have that I keep up on a shelf so they can't get to it. And they wanted to get it out and put on their makeup. And I'm standing there staring at them like, you're not going anywhere and you're wearing your PJs. You guys decided today was a pajama day, but you got to put on a full face of makeup. They're 6 and 8, so we just let them do what brings them joy sometimes, right? So they're doing this thing and it doesn't make any sense at all. And I see people doing the same exact thing with their books. They'll schedule a call with me or, be chatting at an event and I'll say, well, tell me about it. Tell me a little bit about your book, about what you're thinking. And the first thing people say is, I don't have a title yet. I don't have a title yet. I get that all the time. Or if they do, that's what they tell me. I have this fantastic title. Here's what it is. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. What else? I need to know more, because that title isn't your whole book. And maybe you've invested a lot of time in that title, but that's not going to get you anywhere. So when you're coming at your book, I want you to come at it from the perspective that you need to have a purpose. And I see a lot of people on right now, so I just want to say hello. If you want to say hi, drop a hi in the comments. If you have comments, questions and stuff, make sure that you comment while we're chatting here. So yeah, come at it with a purpose, not a title. You don't need a title until you're almost done with your book. The only time you need that title is when your cover designer is putting it on the cover and you're like, here we are marrying this title, this is it, done with the title. Then you need to have that title. But you should have a good part of your book written. My hand's getting tired holding this up here. You should have a good part of your book written before that title comes. Hello, Jen. So when you sit down and you're staring at that blank screen, don't start digging at that title. It's almost like a trauma response where we go back to those things that we've done before. We go back to, the last time you wrote something. Maybe it was a pitch to a magazine. Maybe it was a college paper or a high school paper. We go back to that and we start going, oh, this is how we write. So, you go back to what's familiar, but you don't need to do that. Hi, Angie. Yeah, let me answer your question. This actually fits perfectly in right here. So Angie said, it's more important to get your thoughts down first. Yes, it's more important to know what direction you're going in, what purpose you have, who you want to talk to, all of those kinds of things before you even worry about the perfect title. I've even seen some people come up with this perfect title and they forgot to go and research it, and it turns out there are already 5 other books with that same perfect title. And they've built their whole book around this title. Don't build your book around your title. I've seen it work out well before. I've seen it really work out well. But don't worry about building your book around your title. Build your book around your purpose, around what you want to accomplish with it, around who you want to attract to that book. Because if you have, if you have this perfect title, sometimes, especially when we're newer at writing, we get this really awesome title and we get very excited about it because it's the first thing people see, right? So it's very clever and we think that's going to be the big thing. And then you go through and you're like, oh, my book didn't even end up being about that at all. It ended up turning into something completely different, because when you start writing, sometimes that happens. And sometimes you end up going, you know what, that wasn't my story at all. This is where my heart is, this is where my passion is, and this is where I want to be. And then you've invested your emotion into that title. And that's how it is. You're investing your emotion into something that you end up not even using. It's like buying a hairpiece, like some sort of like a bow or something to go with an outfit, or maybe a purse. I guess that makes more sense. I have little girls, so sometimes I think about weird things like buying hair bows. So maybe you've bought this purse and you're trying to build this perfect outfit around the purse, and then you realize that the purse isn't even going to work for the event that you need it for anyway. So make sure that you aren't marrying your title until you're ready to launch that book, until you're ready to commit with your book cover designer. And make sure that you have a good cover designer, because that makes a big difference too. So what questions do you guys have about this? Any other thoughts on getting to your purpose, about making sure that you're focusing on where you want to go with this book? Does anybody have other questions about this? I see I have a bunch of people on, so I want to make sure I'm answering your questions. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to write. Yeah, and I've actually seen some of the best titles come from words within the book, because you're going through and, when you get into that space where you're really comfortable with your writing, and it's just flowing, and this phrasing just pops out, and you're like, that's it. That's the title. That's exactly what the heart of this book is. And sometimes it doesn't even come until you've written your introduction. Like if you've gone through and written all the, the nuts and bolts, the pieces that you really want, and then you go back and you write your introduction, and, that's that front cap for your book where you're saying, oh, here's the heart of the book, here's everything. And you get this wonderful phrase that really works, and that ends up being the title. So here, let me see. I have a question from Jen. If you've had a book bouncing around with some things written and even a title, do you recommend taking a step back and writing an outline or free writing? Yeah, those are very, very good things to do first. Don't worry about that title. You can do some free writing. I've seen, sometimes you just really feel compelled to write. So sit down and do some free writing and get that out of your head. Because when you do that, that frees up the space to be able to get that book organized in the best way possible. So you can actually write, with purpose. Sometimes, you have a big emotion or you have a big aha and you need to sit down and do some free writing, and that's fine. But I think that the most essential thing to do is to have an outline, to have, the purpose, know exactly who you want to talk to, and get through that piece first, because I've also seen people sit down and do all this writing and really pour out a ton of work, and then we sit down and start working together and we go, this is a really cool story, cool story, bro. This is really cool. This is great stuff, but it's not going to work for your audience because you want to talk to, new entrepreneurs, for example, and you're giving me this really awesome background about your family history, but it's not correlating. And I always tell people too, if you do end up doing that stuff, don't feel like you've wasted your time. Don't feel like you've sat down and written a bunch of stuff that you have to throw in the trash, because everything that you write can be recycled. If you don't want it in your current book, pull it out and put it in a separate document. You can have 2 or 3 documents open at the same time and just be like, putting stuff where you need it. Oh, this is something I may use down the road. This is a really great piece talking about, the first big struggle I had when I was going through my journey. So don't feel like you're wasting your time at all. If you've already got half a book written, and you know there's a lot in there that's going to get scrapped, you didn't waste your time, because you've gotten yourself where you are now, and you've gotten to the point where you felt more comfortable writing, more than likely. Mark says, just finished my second one, The Imprint Phenomenon. Congratulations, Mark. That's fantastic. Can't wait to hear more about that. Yeah, so if you're just joining us, we're chatting a little bit about books, obviously books, because we're in the book group. Chatting about coming to your book with a purpose and not a title. So, if anybody else has questions, go ahead and put them in, but I'm just going to recap real quick, because I should probably wrap it up and see if my kids have destroyed the house yet. So just to do a little wrap up here, when you are sitting down with that blank page, don't focus so much on getting to the title, because the title will come. Sometimes it's something beautiful that just drops in when you're almost done. Sometimes it's something that you think of and you go, oh, that could be it. Write it down. Write it down. I always tell people you have permission to write a messy first draft. So if you come up with a title and you're like, oh, that could be it, write it down and then leave it. Don't worry about it. Don't fuss over it. That's like, going through and trying to find the perfect word for something. Don't fuss over it. It'll come. And always remember, when you're working with a coach or an editor, those are the people that you can bounce those ideas off of. And you can say, I've had people send me a list of like 10 titles and be like, hey, what do you think of these? And we mix them around and we play with them a little bit. And you're welcome, Jen. We play with the titles and we say, okay, how is this going to land with your audience? Who's going to want to read this? Is this going to get confused with another book? Which is always a possibility too. So, talking about titles, talking about holding off until the end on those, and making sure that you're reaching your purpose, hitting your goals, and talking to your ideal audience with your book. So everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining me, and we'll talk again soon.